Great reporting by our very own Anthony Velez. You can go to lawandcrime.com to learn a little bit more of those stories. But as I said before we showed you that, right now we have with us our senior trial producer, Cathy Russon, to talk more about the Jessica Chambers case because she is at the courtroom. She's been following it. Cathy, welcome back here.
Hello, Jesse.
Okay, so I got to talk to you about the difference between this trial, this time around, and the first trial. We saw testimony yesterday from a witness we didn't see the first time around, and I hope you could explain it. It was about somebody that may have driven somebody the night that Jessica Chambers died. Somebody that was in the area gave this mysterious individual a ride back to a family member's house. Can you explain this?
Yes, mysterious individual is a good description that is still that same description today. So we knew from a prior hearing that the prosecution had a new witness this time around, that they had just discovered her, that she gave a ride that night to who we all thought was going to be Quentin Tellis, and this was going to be, it was going to firm up more of a timeline of how he could get from dropping her car off and get back down to his house to get a gas can and get back up all on foot. And this was going to help with that. And she gets up there and says she pulled over on the road because she thought it was her cousin that was walking. And it was a guy that was waving his hand at her. And then when she got there, she didn't know who he was. He was about 19 to 20 years old, a black man. And he asked for a ride to his Aunt Julia's house. Now, the name is Julia Chambers, and it's no relation to his Aunt Julie's house because he just heard that there might be a fire there, that the fire department is at her house. The lady that picked him up knew this Julie. She used to do hair and all this. And so she said, yeah, okay, I'll take you. Well, he didn't have her take him quite to the house, kind of dropped him off before. We're waiting for the bombshell where they ask her, can you identify that man that you gave a ride to in this courtroom today? Never was asked to identify him.
Okay, so that was a great prosecution witness for the defense. That's what it sounds like to me. I'm not really sure how much that helped their case, but it is something interesting to see new developments in this trial as opposed to the last one. But we can't ignore the fact that yesterday was an extremely emotional day in that courtroom. On top of the fact you had multiple first responders talking about what they saw when they saw Jessica Chambers, and you looked at the family members during that testimony, as well as when the medical examiner testified and showed the pictures of Jessica Chambers' burned body. What was it like being in that courtroom during those moments?
Oh, it was horrifying. I mean, horrifying. I'm a mother, and I cannot imagine what those parents are going through. The dad had his head down in his hands. Mom was looking straight down. One time, Dad was wiping his eyes with a tissue. I mean, it's really, it's so horrible. I mean, you can't even imagine. There's no way I can imagine what happens when her burned body gets put up and they're trying to avoid looking at it.
I can't imagine. We saw it on this view. It's much more palpable when you're in the courtroom. Cathy, today, what do we expect? I think we might have a jury view of the crime scene. What do we expect for today?
Yeah, today will be kind of a busy day for everyone here. There's going to be one witness this morning, and then we are all heading out with the jury to see the different sites that they have already been told about. So we'll go to where her car and she was. They're going to go to Quentin Tellis's grandmother's house where he lived, the M&M gas station that we've seen on surveillance and heard about over and over. So that's going to happen this morning. Here's an interesting thing. Tonight, when it's dark, and this is also different from the first trial, we're going on another view of the scene, but when it's dark, and they are recreating. They're going to have the same fire trucks there.
Wow.
They're going to recreate the scene, and that didn't happen last time. So we're going to do two today.
And I think that's important because it helps establish for the prosecution the chaotic nature of that crime scene, and who heard what becomes a big issue. Cathy, thank you so much for coming on to speak with us, and have a great day in the courtroom where you really, explain back to us what's been happening, because there's only so much that we can get from looking at that view, but you really have a first-hand perspective about what's happening. So thanks so much.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. So we talked about the first responders who testified. I want to play some of that testimony right now. This is Melissa Rogers from a volunteer firefighter from Pope County Fire Department, who's going to explain what happened when she encountered Jessica Chambers the night that she was burned alive. Take a look.